on GoSuffolkRams.com. From Boston, Massachusetts, welcome to Suffolk Sounds, the official show for Suffolk University Athletics. Hello and welcome to Suffolk Sounds. My name is Cam Brennan. You can follow me on Twitter at Cam_Brennan1. That's CAM_BRENNAN1. That's how you can find me and interact with me on the social media. As for today's show, we have Suffolk head softball coach, Jaclyn Davis. I sit down with Coach Davis in an exclusive one-on-one interview, and that's what you can expect from today's episode. We'll give you fan access that you never thought you'd be able to get to. We'll have conversations with people that matter to you, and we'll get perspective from those that have close ties to the Suffolk Athletics Department. And you're going to get that all here on the Suffolk Sounds podcast. Now, with that being said, let me get back to Coach Davis. Davis enters her 9th season with the Rams and also serves as Associate Director of Athletics and is the Senior Women's Administrator for the Suffolk Athletic Department. The Rams softball program haven't missed the postseason under the leadership of Davis, including 3 regular season GNAC titles and making 2 appearances in the GNAC championship game. Today we would discuss how Davis approaches each season, the growth of the Rams program, and what awaits the Rams in the CCC. This interview starts now. Coach Davis, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your time on the Suffolk Sounds podcast.
Hi, Cam. Thanks so much for having me.
I appreciate you joining me today. And before we get into the nitty-gritty about the program and about your experience with the Suffolk Athletics program, I just want to hear from you. In March, everything kind of got shut down and we were all sent home to our own separate places and whatnot. And I wanted to hear from you, what were some of your quarantine activities? What did you do to keep yourself busy during that time?
Quarantine activities. I worked out a lot. The most you can do at home, right? I did some baking and doorstep dropping to kind of get out of the house. I did some camping, get out of the city, nature walking. I encourage people to let me play with their dogs. Pretty much anything to keep me busy and occupied.
Absolutely, and I think everyone in that same mindset would want to have something to keep them busy during that time. But transitioning back to Suffolk program, you've been with the Rams entering your 9th season now. Just for people who don't know, give a little bit of background about yourself and how you got to Suffolk. And many people may not know that you were an assistant coach before taking over the head coach role.
It was, yeah. So Suffolk gave me my start. I was a grad student at Boston University right out of college. Honestly, it was sort of like I don't know if it was fate or if it was an accident, but I sort of came across a posting online for an assistant coach position. I had just graduated college and finished my eligibility. So threw my resume in the ring and got a call, and that all kind of happened pretty quickly. And so I was here for the 2008 and the 2009 season as an assistant coach. Had a great experience here. We still have great alumni from those teams that come back and support the program that I'm so grateful for. So I left Suffolk and first time, and I got an assistant coaching opportunity at Rutgers University in New Jersey on the Newark campus, where I coached with some great women and was fortunate enough to coach some really fine student athletes. So I had a wonderful experience there. And my boss was kind of like, it's time for you to fly. Go out there and, put your name in the hat and get a head coaching job. And so I took my first head coaching job at Austin College, which is in Sherman, Texas, very, very far from Newark, New Jersey. So I took a leap of faith and jumped on a plane and flew halfway across the country and didn't know anybody and took my first head coaching job. It was such an amazing opportunity. I learned so much. I was surrounded by great people that are still in my life today. So that was my first head coaching experience. And as that was my first season there was ending, I got a call from Coach Nelson, and he said, hey, I think we have something you might be interested in. Please feel free to apply. And I did, and went through the whole process, and they did the national search, and they decided to bring me on. And so I've been here ever since. I got back to Boston in August of 2012. So here we are.
And I think it's a great evolution to seeing starting as an assistant, then spending a few years away from the Rams program, and then when the opportunity came, coming back to Boston was a great opportunity and something that many people may have not known about yourself too, which is great. Now, with all those seasons under your belt, I want to ask you, how do you approach every season? And some coaches may come in with the same mentality of we're going to play a specific way and we're going to do the things that we're going to do it based on this specific system. And some coaches maybe have to change their ideas and mentality based on the availability of athletes to them, based on the facilities they have available to them, and based on maybe the time constrictions too. How do you approach every season? Is it different? Do you go in with the same general mindset, or is it something that's very focused on what you want to achieve?
So I think it's a little bit of both, right? So, part of building a culture and building a program is building the structure that really is the foundation of that program. And so while that has probably taken a couple of years to build, I think we are in a place where certainly the expectation and the values are similar and or the same every year. I guess what's different is, how do we approach practices? How do we approach games? Being in Boston, I mean, it's one of our strengths. It's what people love about Suffolk. It's what I love about Suffolk. It's what our athletes love about Suffolk. But, with that being said, we practice in different locations, some closer to campus than others. And so that type of stuff, we do have to be flexible and, be able to work on the fly and adjust. And that's okay. I think that builds character. I think it builds our ability to face adversity and to, not be robotic. And that's super important when you're in games. So that part we really love, and that's sort of built into our culture as well. In terms of how we approach games, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It's about personnel, right? Who do you have on your roster? Who's healthy? Who's playing well? And, how can you be successful with that group? We had many years where we had some big hitters in our lineup and we played a lot of long ball, and that was really fun. It was really fun to watch. It was really fun to be a part of. I think the group that we have now, we probably don't have quite as much of that, but we have a lot more speed than we've had before, and we have a lot more tools in our toolbox. So, we'll adjust based on that, and we'll adjust based on who we're playing. And as we roll into 2021, playing in a new conference, we're going to have to probably make some changes on the fly and learn from some mistakes and just try to be better every day.
I definitely agree with that. And something you mentioned earlier when you were talking about the attraction of Boston is getting new students and new student athletes. And the past 2 seasons, you've had a lot of first-year students and underclassmen within your roster. And I just wanted to hear from you, what do you think is the best way to manage and maybe work with those new student athletes and bring them up to speed with not only Suffolk's program, but able to play at a level that's substantial for success within Division III?
Yeah, great question. So I think it's really important to get to know them and get to know them early. And part of what I feel like part of my job here is to, be their family away from their family and create a family away from their family. And I think that is part of the culture that we have here in our program. When we think about comfort, making sure that, they know what they're doing and they know what their expectations are. They know where they're going. They're comfortable with their schedule and sort of the ins and outs of, being a student, not only at Suffolk, but in Boston. And so that's part of it. Being on the field, I think in the fall, we typically do a really good job at giving folks opportunities to really showcase themselves. And like in anything in life, what you do with that opportunity is really up to you. And so, we work really hard to kind of change up our falls. And, last year we had a really great fall. It really gave that big group an opportunity to showcase themselves and to be competitive off the bat and to, try to prove themselves pretty early. And I really do think that all of that would have paid off had we, had a season last year. But in terms of having big groups or small groups of first-year students, I think a lot of the expectation comes from the upperclassmen, right? So the culture that you've built, the expectation of what it means to be a part of our program, what it means to be a part of our team, and what goes along with that on the field and off the field. And I, again, feel really fortunate we have, and we have had in the last couple of years, some really substantial and exceptional young women that have been at the top of our program in leadership positions or in upper class positions that have been able to, teach our younger student athletes sort of the ways of the world here in our little Suffolk softball bubble. So part of it is, coming from our coaching staff, what is our expectation? How do we behave? But, the big part of it is sort of how do you behave amongst your peers and how do those folks affect the current roster, but also rosters to come. And I feel very fortunate to have coached some of the women that have already graduated in our program.
Absolutely. And I agree with you from the fact of it, bringing in those new athletes can be an adjustment period, but it usually pays off in the end. And with that being said, talked a little bit about past seasons and great student athletes that have gone on. Can you talk about the growth and progression under your time with Suffolk? And especially in the last 5 years, there was a stretch of 3 of the 4 seasons were either co or regular season champions of the GNAC, and then 2 of those seasons making the title game as well. So there's been steady improvement within the program. Can you just take us through maybe what you've seen change from your first season to now as the head coach?
Yeah, it's all about the personnel. I really do believe that. I've had some great assistant coaches on my staff, some that have come and gone, some that have come and come back, or gone and come back. And so that really does help make my job immeasurably better. In terms of personnel on the roster, coming in, it was really about, who can I get to buy into this program and to buy into this mentality of work ethic and commitment and, all the buzzwords in athletics. And they were smaller rosters, but, really folks that wanted to go to war together. And so grateful for them. As I got here and got settled here and started recruiting, those recruiting classes were really important. And, not to discredit any class at all, because they've all been important to us and they've all done different things. Our 2018 graduating class, who I recruited out of high school in 2014, they came in as a big class, and, I needed them to be a big class and I needed them to make a splash pretty quickly. And they did that, and sort of the evolution of the program sort of rolled on with them. And so I mention them specifically because they are the winningest team in the history of the department. They're obviously the winningest team in the history of the program. And so they really allowed us to take it to the next level and to continue on with that expectation. And I think from there, groups have learned year after year, and we've just been able to kind of keep moving in this direction. And so it really is about the people that you surround yourself with, and we've had some really great people coming in and out of our program.
Now, you've talked about personnel within the program in itself, and I want to get your perspective on how do you think the Rams have been so consistent, whether it be yourself and getting everyone on the same page and moving in the same direction, or having those personnel changes where you are able to compete at a high level, not only within conference and compete for regular season titles and GNAC championship trophies as well, but also compete with other top teams in New England. What do you think is the best way you would describe remaining consistent over these past years?
Yeah, I think that consistency is about culture, right? And the expectation and, understanding that winning is earned, and, no one's going to give you a W. And at some point, when you are consistently successful, there's a big target on your back, and you have to be able to go out there and fight that every day. We work really hard at our internal culture, how we treat each other, how we behave around each other, the expectation of interaction. And, for better or for worse, we're a family, and, we have good times together, we have tough times together, but, we're going to plow through. As far as, being consistent, I'll say it all day. I have the best assistant coaching staff I could ever think of. They work really hard for me. They work really hard for the girls. And they, make sure that, they're being trained at a high level every day, and they're being pushed and they're being challenged, but they're also being loved and they're also being supported. And, I think when you create that type of an environment and you include high level training and, people are going to show up for you. They're going to show up and they're going to work hard, and, they're going to want to win. And I think that has been a big piece of the consistency year to year.
Absolutely, and that consistency will definitely transition from the GNAC to the CCC, which brings me to maybe my final wrap-up question here. With moving to the CCC, what are your hopes and maybe expectations for the team, regardless of win count, but what do you hope the team does when we do hit the field again?
Yeah, I mean, our expectation is always to win. We love to win around here. We've talked about it a lot. What kind of splash do we want to make? What kind of entrance do we want to make when we get into the CCC? And I do think, we're going to have to step up our game. We're going to have to work a little bit harder. We're going to have to play a little bit harder if we want to stay at the top of this conference the way that we, have in the GNAC over the last. So, that is certainly a topic of conversation. The work that they are putting in, that they will put in, will reflect that. And that's our goal, right? So like we want to come in and we want to send a message early. We're here, we mean business, we want to win. Obviously we want to win the conference. We want to win the conference and we want to go on to play in the NCAAs, which has not happened in a very, very long time. And so, that's always the goal and we keep reaching for it. So that won't change.
Absolutely. And I look forward to when that goal does get achieved, whether it be this season or next. Coach Davis, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Cam.
Ram Nation, if you like what you heard today on the Suffolk Sounds podcast, be sure to visit our website, GoSuffolkRams.com. That's GoSuffOok.com, where you can find all you need to know about Suffolk athletics. While you're at it, be sure to follow the Rams on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the same name for an insider's look. Don't forget to subscribe, like, rate us, and leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to the Suffolk Athletics official show. Send in your questions. Who would you like to hear from, whether it be a player or a coach? We'll be sure to bring something new to every single show. In fact, be sure to tune into our next episode when we talk to Suffolk head women's basketball coach Ed Leiden. Until then, I'm Cam Brennan. Talk to you soon, Ram Nation. This has been Suffolk Sounds. Don't forget to subscribe, like, rate, and review however you listen to your podcast.